welcome. This is another OG versus video. Now, we've got another great for you, this time from the mighty Capcom. We've covered Capcom before, but this time we're looking at the brilliant Ghosts and Goblins. I mean, shoot and run game from back in the day, released in 1985 again by Capcom, obviously. This followed the release of Commando, which we covered in a previous video. But this come out and it was on the arcade. It was brilliant. Everyone loved it. I personally put a lot of money in it, but it wasn't an easy game. It was a very difficult game, but we'll come to all that shortly. So again, as normal, we're doing the comparison this time of Spectrum and the Commodore 64. But which one comes out on top? Now, I can tell you this is a very, very good review for both systems. Both systems were amazing, but we'll come to that shortly. But first, as always, let's take a look at the coin-op original. So here we are. This is Capcom's release of Ghosts and Goblins from the coin-op version, okay, the arcade. In May of 1985, Capcom released Commando, and in September of that year, was their next release. This here was the Ghosts and Goblins. As you can see, it's an amazing game. It got many home systems got this, got transferred very well because it was just so popular in the arcades. So it'd be, be stupid not to. It was a money spinner all round. The one thing about this game, it was bloody difficult. I mean, although considering how hard it was, you kept pumping your coins in to play to go that little bit further. At the end of every level, there'd be a little boss for you to defeat, not so little in this case, and there was a total of 6 levels. As I've already said, this was a very, very difficult game, but when it got transferred to the home systems, it got very well received. So, moving on, let's look at the Spectrum version. Well, as we all know, the Spectrum had its limitations, but it was still a great machine, and this was no exception. This was an amazing conversion. Still suffered with a few issues around colour clash, but they were majorly reduced for a Spectrum release, which was very well done in itself. But the biggest thing for the programming here was the side-scrolling. Side-scrolling games on the Spectrum particularly did not do very well at all, but this, they did an immense job of it. I mean, just look at it, the scrolling, brilliant. Graphically, it was very good. It stuck well to the original coin-op. Cute little graphics, did it very, very well. Obviously limited colours, but it's a Spectrum. There was limited colours. Obviously only sound effects as well. Shame, really. I mean, if they had a little soundtrack going along in the background, I think it would have made it so much better. But it was brilliant for the limitations of the Spectrum. A great, great, great conversion. Let's see how the C64 does. Of course, what better way to start the C64 version, and of course a great bit of music. I mean, that woo, spooky noise. What a brilliant way to introduce Ghosts and Goblins. Well, anyway, the SID chip always makes a difference when it comes to C64. We all know that. But onwards and upwards, when this was released, this was £9.95, but if you bought it on the Spectrum, it was £7.95. So, hey, you had to pay a bit more, but I think the extra was worth it. I mean, just look at the graphics here. I mean, the Commodore 64 had a 16 colour palette, and it made brilliant use of it here. And as you can see, the game just flowed very, very well. A brilliant conversion. Like the Spectrum version, also very, very good. Superior slightly, maybe. Graphics are better. It just played brilliantly, and this was as close to the arcade version as you were going to get in a home system. So very well played Commodore. But who wins? Let's find out. Great job. So there you go. That was the original coin-op. Great, great game. We've seen this Commodore 64 version. We've seen the Spectrum version. Both were brilliant in their own rights. I mean, the Spectrum, to be honest, I mean, just look at some of these reviews. Take a look at some of them reviews there. These guys raved about this, and rightly so, because, I mean, the Spectrum obviously had limitations. Okay, the sound on it wasn't brilliant. It was just basic sound effects. There was no music at all, but, it was a side-scroller, and Spectrum always struggled with any side-scrolling games. So for this, to pull it off, the programming for this was brilliant. It was an amazing job by Spectrum. The gameplay was brilliant. It wasn't not like the unlike the coin-op version, which is rare. You know, a lot of these coin-op conversions lost so much in the translation, but this didn't at all. This was brilliant. The gameplay was excellent and everything else, and graphically it was very good. Okay, there's some colour clash, but it's ZX Spectrum. It was 48K. What do you expect? A brilliant effort by the Specky. And then we come to the Commodore. Wow, awesome, absolutely amazing use of the 16 colour palette they had, and considering it only had 16 colours to use, it was a brilliant conversion. I mean, graphically, the sprites, everything, the gameplay, the speed, and it looked brilliant as well. It just played just like the arcade version. So if you'd played this at the arcade and you got this on your C64 or your Spectrum, you wouldn't have been disappointed with either. If I had to give one negative on the Commodore version, it would be that the music in the game was not the same as the arcade machine. It was like a different working completely, but that's not a bad thing. They did a great job of it, and again the music was spot on, and the SID chip was coming to its own. So a massive commendation to the Sinclair Spectrum version on this, because it was a great job. But we're looking at coin-op comparisons, and to be absolutely honest, the Commodore 64 takes it this time, simply because it was perfect copy almost. You know, I mean, the graphics obviously not the same as the arcade, but very few systems back in the day could produce arcade quality. But for a home 8-bit computer system, absolutely amazing job. So Commodore 64 takes it for me. Now, if you agree or if you disagree, say so in the comments, let me know. But don't be hating on the video because you don't like the verdict. Again, great commendation for Spectrum. A very good rounder. And again, stay tuned and look after yourselves, and I'll see what's coming up next for you. Cheers. If you watch the video and you like what you see, don't forget to subscribe for more great videos. Thanks for watching.